The time has now come and we are officially into Halloween Horror Nights announcement season. No, we didn't quite get a house announced, but we did have a lot of information dropped upon us. Single night tickets, we got the tour, we got the Unmasking the Horror Tour starting way earlier than we all thought it would. More on that a little later. So let's first off talk about the dates. Halloween Horror Nights this year is starting on August 30th all the way through November 2nd. So you have plenty of opportunities if you want to go even earlier in August, sometime in September, or later in October, or closer to Christmas season in November. So it's pretty much spread out. So for those single night tickets, it's starting $82.99 is kind of the lower cost of it. It's going to skyrocket the more you go, especially on Fridays and Saturdays. So keep that in mind. If you plan to go and you want to save as much money as you can, go on a Sunday, go on a Wednesday or a Thursday. As well as this year, it is back that they are offering the Peacock Premium, 6 months of it with the single night ticket, no matter which one you buy. So at least you get something out of it. And as you can see, starting off already in August, you're already going to be paying $102 up to $106. That's not including the tax on that. So quite expensive to go for opening weekend. They're really making that sort of a prominent thing throughout this. You'll see opening weekend cost on things is pretty crazy. And moving on from that, we have the most talked about, the most important one that everyone seems to put such a high praise on, and that is the Express Pass. Now this year they're doing things quite different. They're upping the cost on Express like crazy, especially to fight the crowds that happened last year. So for everyone who did Express last year, you kind of screwed the method for Horror Nights going forward, because now they're going to price out a lot of folks just to keep those Express lines moving and keep it sort of worth the while. So as usual with Express, it's only a one-time use. You don't get to use it multiple times. Only once, unless they offer that magical unlimited pass. Only time will tell on that. Sometimes they offer it after 11 o'clock Express Pass as well, but they only offer those options usually in the park and usually on the day of. They don't offer those ever beforehand. So those are kind of like mythical unicorns to Horror Nights. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And the starting price with Express is $129.99, but as you can see, if you want to get Express for opening weekends, say that Friday, that Saturday you're going, you want Express, you want to increase your chances of seeing everything, starting off at $159.99 on opening night, and then on that Saturday night you're paying $169.99. Quite expensive. I think they're forcing many people not to want to do Express with those costs. Between that and you also have to have your single night ticket as well. As we can see later on in the month, if you're going on a Saturday like in October, Express is bumping up to about $239.99, not including the tax on that. So, and then moving on from that, we have the popular, if you are like big bank, you have the RIP tour, which comes in two separate sort of tiers. There's the regular RIP tour, and then there's the private RIP tour. If you got tons of money, or you got a rich friend who, or rich uncle or whatever, that is more your method. If you're regular folks and you want to do the RIP tour, I highly recommend it. If you have the money for it, it is probably the ultimate way you're going to experience Horror Nights, because it's a guided tour. You get front of the line, like straight to the house. You get shortcuts. You're not taking the long walks around like you would if you have Express. You're pretty much cutting a lot of the walking time down. There's also a pre-tour reception with some light appetizers that you can try. There's a cash bar that you can just go to. You don't have to go to the regular bars with everyone else. There's like a private little area. I believe it's in the Horror Makeup or Cafe La Bamba that you just go in there and just relax for a little bit if you want to. And also to note that it says reserve seating at select shows, parentheses, shows with the S. So there's your clarification that we will have more than one show for this year. What that show may be, we'll find out in time. And you get unlimited access to Express for the rides after your tour is done. Not the houses, but the rides. Starting price of this is $359.99. So if you want to go opening weekend, we're looking at well over $400 for that Saturday of RIP. What's funny about this, I did find if you wanted to go to the RIP tour on the last Saturday of the event, so way in November 2nd, it is going to cost you $419.99. I don't know why at that point you wouldn't just buy Express or just go regular at that point, because it's not really extremely busy. But yeah, that was just funny to note. And up next, we are talking about the Unmasking the Horror tour. If you've never done this tour before, I highly recommend it. It is awesome. You get a tour guide. It's during the day, not during Horror Nights. You get to see the actual houses. Now, they break this down into two formats. There's a 3-house tour and there's a 6-house tour. 3-house tour is very interesting this year for a couple reasons. Number one, it is the cheapest option. It's really, really cheap. If you think about it, for a tour, it's pretty cheap. It's 3 houses, lights on, you get to photograph some stuff. We'll talk about that in just one second. This is the first time ever that they're offering this tour early, well before Horror Nights even gets here, about 2 weeks or so before. So starting on August 11th, you can actually book the 3-house tour for $99.99. That's plus the tax, so 100 and something. But you can actually book it well before Horror Nights gets here, which is rather interesting that they're doing this. And there's 2 caveats here. Number one, either they are not going to have any IP houses on this tour, and it's just going to be maybe 3 originals. Or the other caveat is maybe they have an IP on this house tour, but they're only going to allow you to photograph maybe 2, 3 rooms at the max, maybe the facade, maybe 2 other rooms, and then that'll be it. You're just going to see it with your eyes. You're not going to take any photos. And that's kind of a bummer, but I figured that would be sort of the caveat if this was coming earlier. But nonetheless, this is really exciting to see how they're going to do this. I for sure will be booking a tour on this just because it's early, just to see how this is going to work. And for the 6-house tour, this is where things get really interesting, especially for me as a content creator, as someone that's been doing this with my friends as an opening weekend tradition. The opening cost on this, on that opening weekend of Saturday, is looking at $209.99. That is, tax, obviously. On that, it's going to cost way more. It's almost gotten to the point where we are really in conversations of, do we want to do this? Is this worth it? Is this worth the cost? Because we all have to buy a frequent fear pass, food, travels, hotels, all that stuff is not really included. So when you start stacking on stuff, I'm looking at this going like, is this worth it? Because I'm booking this ahead of time. I do not know what the houses are officially. We don't know what houses are featured on this tour as well. The lunch is not included in this. Keep note of that. You still have to pay for your own lunch, whether you go to any other properties, you're still going to be buying your own lunch. So that's not included in the cost of this. You now have the dates. Start booking your hotel. I cannot tell you how many times people wait and stuff sells out. So book now, start planning, start buying your tickets. And what do you plan to do at Halloween Horror Nights this year? I want to know down in the comment section, which are you buying ticket? Are you buying express? You got the money? You doing RIP? Let me know.